In this video, we're quickly going to take a look at some of the best PvE drops for tanks. You should have a pretty good idea on what to go farm at the end of this video. The first one here is a sword. The sword is pretty decent. It comes with strength, enchanted, hated, and the last perk I'll probably choose refreshing move, since you can weave your light attacks in between so that you can get your abilities back a little bit more quickly. Where does this drop? Well, this drops in all the Lazarus, just regular old Lazarus that you can do in Requarter the dungeon. So pretty decent, not too difficult to get. Just run a couple of Lazaruses. Moving on to something a little bit more new, a flail. So the commanding stance. I did choose hated for this one as well, since you want to keep the aggro right. This is the only one with hated, so it's a little bit iffy. But keenly fortified for the next one. Probably the last perk I'll choose refreshing moves, just like the sword. I like to weave in my attacks here and there, not just hold block all the time. Where can you farm this? Well, Tempest Heart, I believe. Since you can get it from Isabella, probably a little bit difficult, a little bit more difficult. Maybe you can craft this with materia if you enjoy tanking with the flail. But I think the sword is still better at the moment. Moving on to a warhammer that you can use, the Morgrel's Mole, I guess. Strength, refreshing move, hated, and you're probably going to put clear out here on here, Sundering clear out. They changed it a little bit, so now you basically give a rend. You go to perk bucket here, and we go down. You can see Sundering clear out. It gives 25% rend. You probably on your armor you want Sundering shockwave as well, so that you can do both and just reduce the enemy's armor basically to 0. So just do both, and one on your armor and one on the hammer. But yeah, clear out probably on the hammer. You won't knock the enemies back. If you move on to another one, maybe you don't like hated on your second one, then you can always go with this one. This one is pretty decent. Keenly jagged rogue, maybe you can backstab, but mostly for the keenly jagged I chose this. You can also use Sundering clear out, which is pretty decent. This one can drop in Heliopius, I believe, just in Brimstone, but if you do a Heliopius run or whatever it's called, you can probably get this. It's just by Brimstone, the one elite area. Moving on to some jewelry. This is the only jewelry piece or earring piece that comes with the spice, which will generate more fret. You're probably going to need this, otherwise you're going to lose aggro. Unfortunately, it does come with nimble. I guess you can use the stamina regen. I probably prefer regenerating, and then the last perk you can choose what you want, probably refreshing toast. But let's move on to the next one. For rings, there's a couple that you can go depending on your weapon. The privateer's heirloom, always nice, hearty, slash damage, and then you can choose your last perk, whatever you like. There's like a couple of decent perks that I believe. It's like purifying heart, but only if you're healing. And then, well, this for your heart rune, and then healing breeze. Or you can choose something else like bloodletting if you're using the artifact, the butcher. But just remember, you might cap out on bleed duration. I also included another ring here. Well, let me move back to this ring. You can get this ring from barnacles and black powder, by the way. I almost skipped it, but you can get this ring from barnacles and black powder, the slash damage one. Moving on to a red hot slag or slag, which comes with bloodletting, hardy. Why bloodletting? Why do I include this? Well, that is an artifact, a sword artifact that has bleeding. So you can basically bleed the enemies and just sit there and tank. So you can use that if you want to with the hardy and then slash damage probably. But you will probably cap out on bleed duration, since the sword also has this perk on it. I have no idea if it stacks. I might be completely wrong, but I just wanted to include this. Maybe somebody can make use out of this. Where can you get the red hot slag? Well, you can get this from Imperium Forge, just a regular dungeon, no need to do mutation, so pretty easy if you want to pick this up. Next ring is Deep River Ring, purifying heart, hearty, and then you can choose your damage type if you want. You can farm this in Requarter. I'll probably farm the cannon guy. It drops quite a bit of these things. I already have this ring, but just Siren's Brute, you can go farm this. Pretty decent. Hopefully get this quickly. Another one, if you don't like those rings, are Ace of Crystal ring. This one can drop from any mutation, hardy, leeching, and then you can choose your damage perk. So any mutation should be pretty decent. I believe any mutation 2 they should drop from, so that you can have a pretty decent ring. For your amulet, I wanted to have an amulet that I can just customize myself. So this is basically the only one that I think is pretty decent, that I can just throw in maybe a nature protection, a void protection on. So health, refreshing, recovery, and a protection. I wanted divine, but there isn't one. If there is, let me know in the comments, but I couldn't find one. So I'll probably put a protection on here and just call it a day. Corruption Prognator Amulet. This one comes from Shattered Mountain. I already got this from the Pit Lord, where you can farm the corruption trophies. So you can just do this one if you do not want to farm Shattered Mountain. You can just do the Pit Lord and hopefully this drop for you. I'm probably going to need about 4 of these just to be safe. So pretty decent to go farm this and just customize it to your liking. Moving on to another one, if you do not like that one, Ace of Battery. This one is way more difficult to get, I believe, but it comes with health, Alchemist Reprieve. Your healing pots basically heal you for like 10% more, and then you can choose the perk that you want, the protection type of the mutation. This one comes from Godly Crepri. Is this the one in Brimstone, I believe? Let's take a look quickly. Oh, this one is from the Ennead dungeon. So you can farm this from the Ennead dungeon. A little bit more difficult to get, I believe. So definitely make sure that you come prepared. Probably not the most difficult anymore, since you can just craft it with materia if you want to, or just go with the story mode, since I do believe it drops from regular dungeon. So Ace of Battery if you like your potions to do more healing. Moving on to a shield. The shields is pretty limited. It's difficult to get a shield to 700. You might as well just use a regular shield that's 600, since this doesn't count towards gear score. You will lose out on a little bit of percentages on the perks, but it's not the worst. But I wanted to include a shield here, the Ace of Crystal shield. I already have this one. It drops from mutations 2, right? So you're going to have shield defense, refreshing, sturdy energy, and I'll probably roll sturdy. Make sure if you play sword and shield, you also roll sturdy fortification on your armor somewhere. Well, the shield rush one, right? So just choose that one if you have it on your armor as well, so that you're decent, nice and fortified if you use it. Moving on to the next one, some armor pieces. Armor pieces is like a little bit difficult. I prefer Enchanted Ward over Grit, the Grit perk. But Enchanted Ward reduced damage, right? Light and heavy, then the refreshing, and then you can choose your last perk. Probably health if it's not a weapon perk. But weapon perks, Sundering Shockwave, and then Fortifying Shield Rush probably. Choose one of those. Well, where does this set drop? It also drops from mutations 2. So you're going to have to farm with a laser set before you can get this one. Refreshing, nice to have your taunts up a lot for your skills. Moving on to another one, if you do not like Enchanted Ward, you can always get Grit Ward and Slash Conditioning, and then you can choose either health or a weapon perk here. Not the worst, since you probably will have Grit since you got a lot of Constitution, right? So you can have these. This will just drop in Brimstone. Just do Heliopius. This will also drop there. I already got this full set from farming Heliopius with a group. So you can just farm this out easy. While farming this set, you can also farm the next set, the Keratin Helm. This one will also drop from Heliopius. So basically you can farm 2 sets at once. So Grit Ward, the refreshing. Here's the refreshing again. I like this a little bit better, this set. And then you can choose health and something else, or a weapon perk. See, also Heliopolis. So you can get this there. Moving on to some artifacts. The Butcher is pretty decent, I believe. If you put a gem slot on it and just put a Carnelian on it, it should taunt pretty decently, even though it doesn't have hated. Since you can just bleed everything and the bleed should start ticking. Pretty decent, I believe. So you will have extra bleed duration, and then your swirling blades do a little bit more damage and bleeds and shit. So pretty decent. Where can you farm this? Well, Let's take a look. I believe it is housing. It's pretty difficult to farm, I believe. Yeah, all the way in a dungeon. So it's in a dungeon. So they good luck. Dynasty Shipyard. It's probably gonna have to be mutated. Yep. Level 1 mutation. So when it comes around, make sure you pick up the sword. Pretty decent and pretty interesting. So let's move on to the next one, the wall. Sometimes tanks need to dodge as well, so the wall might be a little bit risky, but you can just weapon swap, I guess, if you want to. But here's the wall, pretty decent, extra sturdy, and a couple of other things where you can avoid elemental damage. You take 25 less elemental damage, pretty decent for PvE dungeons, right? Maybe you don't need to dodge if you can block a little bit more. But where does this drop? It drops from Heru. I believe this is the Ennead dungeon, which is a little bit difficult, right? But this is the Ennead dungeon, I believe. So pretty decent. Make sure you get this if you have Heru. It doesn't even have, yeah, it does have to be mutation 1. So good luck. Definitely going to pick this up when it rolls around. Moving on to Odo. This is the flail. Probably slot in a gem slot, right? So to have your Cornelian going, this comes from Vanish, which is kind of difficult. Let's take a look. Where is this? This is in Elysium Wilds. You need to run all the way up here. So good luck, go find it, and you should have a decent little one there. Why is this special? Well, basically, you deal 20% more damage to stunned foes. On block, you heal for 5% base health. A little cooldown. You already got your refreshing move, super decent. And then just slot a Cornelian. Moving on to some trinkets, lost stopwatch. This will activate your taunt gems, right? Where does this drop? Well, Commander Forb, mutation 1. So you will do the depths, I believe. So maybe next week or 2 weeks after that. Hopefully this comes quick and then you can just get this. I still want to experiment with this, see if this works. Not quite sure. On the PTR it didn't, but we'll see in the future if they fix this. Activate taunt gems. Hopefully they did. But pretty decent. Just farm the depths in mutation 1 and this should drop. Moving on to a better amulet, the Ankh, which gives you extra healing, divine health, and then you just can choose something here that you like. This does come from a PvP track, so good luck if you're a PvE enjoyer. But this should be pretty decent once you get it. And then lastly, probably Void Darkblade. If you like heavy armor, enchanted, physical, and then you just go health here. Where does this come from? Well, mutation 1, narrate. It is this barnacles and black powder, I believe. I think this is barnacles and black powder. Yeah, this is barnacles and black powder. So you can definitely get this there if it is mutated, since it's mutated 1. So hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, give it a like. And don't forget to go watch me on Twitch. I stream there 5 days a week.